When we think about someone who's highly intelligent, we tend to picture things like effortless success, right? Brilliant solutions just popping into their head. It really gets framed as a kind of superpower, a pure gift. But is that the whole story? I mean, from the outside looking in, it really does look like a golden ticket. You'd probably assume life is just easier. You think faster, you solve problems in a snap, and you hit your goals without much of a struggle. That's the perception anyway. And that's the big question we're digging into here. Because under that shiny surface of perceived ease, there's a much more complex and often challenging reality. So let's dive in. It turns out psychology points to some very real and often totally invisible struggles that highly intelligent people face. We're going to break down 8 of the most significant ones, starting with what's going on inside the mind itself. This right here really frames the whole conversation, doesn't it? The myth is all about speed and ease, effortless success. But the reality? Well, it's often defined by constant pressure, a mind that just won't stop overthinking, and this profound feeling of being misunderstood. That gap between myth and reality is exactly what we're exploring. All right, so let's start with the challenges that happen right inside your own head. Think of it as this inner labyrinth that a gifted mind has to navigate, literally every single day. And for so many, this is where it begins. It's like having an engine that just never, ever shuts off. While someone else might have a conversation and just move on, a highly active mind can replay that same conversation for hours, analyzing every single word, every tone, every look. It's a constant state of processing. And this constant looping thought process, it actually has a name: analysis paralysis. It's that feeling of being completely stuck because you've considered every single possible outcome, to the point where making a simple choice feels impossible. Like spending 3 hours researching the perfect coffee maker until you just give up and don't buy one at all. The sheer weight of thought gets in the way of actually doing anything. Oh, this is a big one. It's not just about wanting to do a good job. It's about this internal drive to hit an impossibly high standard of perfection. It means a 99% success can feel like a total crushing failure, all because of that one tiny missing percent. And let's be clear, we're not talking about the healthy kind of perfectionism that pushes you to be better. This is what's called maladaptive perfectionism. It's the kind that becomes a major source of chronic stress, anxiety, and eventually burnout, because you're just never, ever satisfied with what you do. And then there's this relentless need to question, well, everything. A gifted mind doesn't just accept things at face value. And while that drive to deconstruct ideas is amazing for innovation and growth, it can also make you feel totally out of step with the world that often just wants you to accept the simple answers. Okay, so all of these internal battles, they don't just stay inside, do they? They naturally spill over into the social world, and that creates a whole new set of challenges when it comes to connecting with other people. This is such a painful disconnect for so many. You just crave depth. You want to talk about big ideas, complex problems, or, something meaningful. But so much of our daily interaction is just small talk. And when that's all you can find, it's so easy to feel lonely, even when you're in a room full of people. And then there's this weight of expectation. Because you're seen as the smart one, there's this unspoken belief that you should never fail, you should never struggle, and you should always, always have the right answer. It makes any little mistake feel absolutely massive. So what happens when you mix that constant pressure with a mind that overthinks everything? You get imposter syndrome. It's that nagging, persistent feeling that you're basically a fraud, and that any second everyone's going to find out you're not as smart as they think. It's that little voice of doubt just screaming louder than all the evidence of your success. The world can also just feel incredibly exhausting. It's this weird paradox. On one hand, your mind is starving for stimulation and gets bored so easily with repetitive tasks. But on the other hand, you're so sensitive to everything. You're picking up on subtle emotional cues and patterns that everyone else misses, and that can be really, really draining. And that sensitivity brings us to our final and maybe the most profound challenge on the list, because this isn't just about thinking deeply, it's also about feeling deeply. And this connection is so crucial to understand. High intelligence isn't always just cold, hard analytics. It's very often paired with this intense, almost overwhelming empathy. You don't just understand on an intellectual level that someone is sad. You can actually feel their sadness, almost as if it's your own. There's actually a term for this in psychology: emotional contagion. It's like you're an emotional sponge just soaking up the feelings of everyone around you, often without even realizing it's happening. And while that can be an incredible gift for connection, it is also an immense burden to carry around all day. So, after going through all these challenges, it would be really easy to walk away thinking that a gifted mind is more of a curse than a gift. But that is absolutely not the takeaway here. The real work is about reframing that whole narrative. And this right here, this is the whole point. All of this complexity, the overthinking, the perfectionism, the deep empathy, that's not a flaw. It's the texture of a powerful and incredibly rare mind. The goal isn't to get rid of these traits, it's to learn how to understand and harness them. So, how in the world do you do that? Well, it comes down to being really proactive about nurturing your mind. First, seeking a real balance between all that deep thinking and just letting your brain rest. Second, setting boundaries to protect your energy, especially your emotional energy. And finally, and this is huge, finding an environment and finding people that truly stimulate you instead of draining you. If any of this, and I mean any of it, has resonated with you today, please let this one idea sink in. You are not too much. Your intensity, your endless curiosity, your depth, that's not something you ever need to apologize for or try to shrink down. And maybe that's the simplest, most powerful way to see it. It's not a burden. It's a deeper, more textured, more intense experience of what it means to be alive. And truly understanding that, well, that's the first step to turning these quiet burdens into your absolute greatest strengths.